Chapter 1644. He had heard his master, the Moon Empress. The Radiance Federation's 7 stabilizing treasures were sacred source lifeforms that had reached 10 stars and above. They were treasures made from dead bodies. It could be said that the 7 stabilizing treasures could affect the weather to a certain extent. But what was the use of the mountain river set bells? Lin Yuan did not know. It seemed that it was related to defense. The interior of the Radiance Sacred Hall had become a world of its own. After inviting out the mountain river set bells, Lu Yifan spoke. Let's invite the Freedom Federation and the Azure Federation's ambassadors to sit on the stone pillars. Following Lu Yifan's instructions. As the 4th Azure Envoy, Yin Lin led the Azure Federation's ambassadors. She chose a stone pillar and sat on it. But the Freedom Federation did not follow Lu Yifan's instructions. He sat on the beam of the stone pillar. Standing at the front of the Freedom Federation's team was Li Su, dressed in a golden robe. She stood motionless. Freedom Envoy Qianyu, who was standing behind Li Su, could only stay where he was. After the arrival of the Majesty. As a Freedom Envoy, he no longer had the right to speak. This was the difference between the Freedom Federation and the Radiance Federation. At that moment, the mountain river set bells chimes suddenly became loud and clear. The earth veins suppressed by the 108 bells suddenly glowed. The earth veins turned into dragons and raised their heads. The power of mountains and rivers pressed down on Li Su. The power of each dragon head was equal to that of a dragon's. It was like a real mountain and river. This power had reached the level of a celestial phenomenon. Li Su glanced at the aura that was coming at him. He lifted his feet and walked towards the stone pillar. Li Su was very clear about the power of the Radiance Federation's stabilizing treasures. If he wanted to resist, he had to show his strength. Once he showed his strength, it was impossible for the Radiance Federation's Majesty to not make a move. He thought about his purpose of coming this time. Li Su suppressed his temper and took this step. Qianyu, who was behind Li Su, hurriedly followed. The Freedom Federation's Majesty each had their own purpose and thoughts. No matter what Li Su did this time, as long as they could not achieve their purpose of coming to the Radiance Federation, they would definitely be punished afterwards. Therefore, from the bottom of his heart, Qianyu did not wish for an intense conflict to occur. After Li Su took a step forward and walked towards the stone pillar, the might of the set of mountains and rivers of the God of Earth and Veil bells had been unleashed. It circled around in the sky. It returned to the raised dragon head of the Xianxia bells. It made the Xianxia chimes play an even more melodious melody. Seeing that the envoys from the 2 federations had already taken their places, Lu Yifan said loudly, "Let us welcome your majesties onto the stage." 13 fey carriages with different postures appeared in front of the golden stone pillar. 13 majesties, all dressed in regal robes, flew through the air. He walked up to the golden stone pillar. From the moment their majesties sat down, the Radiance 100 sequence test had officially begun. Lu Wenqing, who was in charge of the Radiance 100 sequence test, said, "Now, the Radiance 100 sequence test will officially begin. Everyone, please use your Star Web card to enter the Star Web and enter the teleportation gate in front of you to enter the assessment venue. This test will last for 3 days. After 2 days, the size of the examination venue will start to shrink. At the same time, dimensional rifts will open from time to time in the examination venue. Only 10 people are left. The test has ended. Fill in the vacancies of the 100 sequence from 91 to 100. The original Radiance 100 sequence members from 91 to 100 will participate in the test as contestants. That's all I have to say. Since the test will be conducted on the Star Web, none of your lives will be in danger. Therefore, there are no additional rules for the 100 sequence this time. Now let's begin." After Lu Wenqing finished speaking, Yi Shiwen's expression changed. He spoke to the 2 elders standing beside him. "Wenqiu, Wuxia, the 2 of you will give each of the 2 envoys a temporary Star Web card. Make it convenient for the 2 envoys to observe the ceremony." After hearing Lu Wenqing's instructions, the 2 elders flew toward the stone pillar where the 2 envoys were seated. The envoys from the 2 federations were looking forward to it. They wanted to experience the wonders of the Star Web firsthand. After all, the Star Web was a product of the interaction between the 3 sacred source lifeforms. There was really no way to replicate it. At this moment, the most lively place was the Star Web. Could be said that as long as one had a star web card. At this moment they had all entered the star web. Otherwise they would be prepared to watch the star web's official live broadcast. Otherwise they would stay in the live streaming room and watch familiar hosts broadcast the Radiance 100 sequence selection. If there was a contestant that they especially supported, he could even adjust the camera to focus on that player. The traffic in Tieba and various fan groups skyrocketed to more than 5 times the usual. The Grumpy brothers were already clamoring in the live broadcast room. Why hasn't it started yet? Hurry up and start. I can't wait. I'm going to focus on Black today. I don't believe that Black won't use an ultimate move or summon a new Fae during the Radiance 100 sequence selection. I feel that Black might be the same as before. He didn't even reveal his strength during the duel with Lu Shuang. How could his opponent be as powerful as Lu Shuang during the Radiance 100 sequence selection? Didn't you see the competition rules published on the Star Web 2 minutes ago? A battle for survival. Black isn't just facing competitors but also the dimensional rift. In the face of the exotic beast tide, how can Black do nothing? As a resident of Millstone Town, the test rules remind me of Black's plant Fae. In the memories of the people of Millstone Town, they will never forget the sea of flowers that collided with the insect tide and kept eroding it. I don't care about Black. My son is ranked 47th in the Stormy Wave 100, so I'm going to focus on my son. Lu Shuang had previously dueled with Black. She was very popular. During this period, Lu Shuang had been using Black's popularity to hype herself up. A large number of viewers had gathered in Lu Shuang's live streaming room. After looking at the rules for a long time, Lu Shuang said, "This test must be about teamwork." "The test this time must be a test of teamwork," Yi Zichen said. "It's impossible to resist the Class 2 exotic beast tide with an individual's ability. In the Class 2 exotic beast tide, there are already dimensional lifeforms that are comparable to platinum Faes. Even if a person has a diamond Fae, as long as the Fae isn't good at endurance, it won't be able to last for 3 days. Furthermore, the dimensional rift opens up randomly. If 2 dimensional rifts are close to each other, one will face the situation of being attacked from both sides. Therefore, it's impossible to form a small team to survive for 3 days. A large team must work together." End of this chapter. Chapter 1645. Thinking of this, Lu Shuang's heart thumped. He immediately understood that this test was a test of strength. It was also a test of human nature and the human heart. Lu Shuang might not have participated in the Radiance 100 sequence selection. He had never been a Radiance 100 sequence member for even a day. However, Lu Shuang was not weak. Back then, Lu Shuang didn't participate because she relied on a spiritual type Fae. It was a defense-type spirit chi professional who was attacking. It was simply too obscure and it was easy for others to target it. In battle, other than consuming spiritual energy, one had to be extremely careful. It also consumed spiritual energy. Spiritual power could be easily replenished. However, it would take a lot of time for him to recover his mental energy. Therefore, for various reasons, Lu Shuang had given up several chances to take the test. But in the current environment, this assessment method completely shattered the limitations of healing-type and support-type spirit chi professionals. During teamwork, healing-type spirit chi professionals and support-type spirit chi professionals would work together. They were often more popular than power offense-type spirit chi professionals. If he had been in the same state when he participated in the test, he would have been able to do so. The exquisite rhinoceros deer could recover other Fae's spiritual energy. He would definitely be protected by his team. From Lu Shuang's perspective, the 100 sequence assessment was a revolution. It was undoubtedly a great success. Lu Shuang's father was a spirit guard. His mother was a secretary in Cloud Pool City. Lu Shuang had been exposed to the environment since she was young. It could be said that Lu Shuang was familiar with the current situation. They possessed far sharper judgment than ordinary people. Since a month ago, bellflower after bellflower bloomed in the sky above the Huiyao sect. These platycodon flowers spewed out volcanoes and lava fell from the sky. A giant golden tree blocked the lava that was falling from the sky. Lu Shuang only knew about the Radiance Federation and the Freedom Federation. A serious conflict was bound to break out. The crux of the conflict was the assembly of 10,000 states. However, this collision had already caused undercurrents to surge. The news of opening a Class 6 Abyss dimensional rift and turning the Abyss world into a mirror world came too suddenly. There was no buffer time at all. This caused the prices of goods in the Radiance Empire to fluctuate violently within a short period of time. The Majesties didn't hesitate to release trillions of resources to compensate for the turbulence in the market. Restore the stability of all prices. He also wanted to promote the establishment of mirror towns in the Abyss world. Lu Shuang keenly felt that the times had changed. The atmosphere had also changed. Originally, spirit chi professionals could do a lot of work. Chapter 1646. At this moment, the image was focused on a young man dressed in black spirit chi clothes. The audience in Lu Shuang's live-streaming room was in an uproar. This isn't going to kindergarten. My husband finally appeared. Looking forward to it. Husband, quickly summon the Fae and let me have a good time. Girl who won't step on ants. Black's perspective has appeared. The Radiance 100 sequence test has finally begun. This test will last for 72 hours. It's too exciting to watch for 72 hours. Free like the wind. Why isn't Black moving? Black, quickly move. I can take it. About your worries. Black's girlfriend fans, please watch your words and deeds. As Black's male mother, I don't agree for my son to be with you. The live streaming room was filled with comments. As they kept scrolling, everyone noticed a problem. It was the mask that Black was wearing and everyone's impression of the mask that Black should be wearing. It was completely different. This made the people who noticed this scene have a question in their hearts. Could it be that Black knew that today was the Radiance 100 sequence test? Did he deliberately wear a more exquisite mask? The mask that Black had worn previously was a plain silver mask. There were 3 shallow patterns on it. It was very easy to imitate. As long as you took out 500 Federation dollars, you could find a blacksmith to make one. This was why Black's fans could easily imitate Black. It didn't require any capital to imitate Black. Black's mask had 4 patterns on the left and right. These patterns were especially elegant, like silk fluttering in the wind. When Lu Shuang noticed this, her pupils shrank. Was Black's mask made of a tool transformation Fae? There had always been a controversy on the star web. Lu Shuang firmly believed that there was a problem with Black's mask. In the face of the exquisite rhinoceros deer's attack, Black's mask lit up. Lu Shuang felt that with Black's low-key personality, it wouldn't be because of the Radiance 100 sequence selection. It would change the mask into a new style. When the bloodline metamorphosed and the strength increased, phase that could be transformed into tool transformation. It wouldn't change the type of tool transformation. However, it could make the tool transformation item more exquisite. The transformation of the mask that Black was wearing perfectly matched this point. Lu Shuang was already certain in her heart. Black must have used that feline Fae to defeat him back then. It had become stronger. As Lin Yuan didn't move, Lu Shuang's audience was puzzled. In fact, it wasn't just Lu Shuang's audience. The audience in the other live-streaming rooms that locked onto Black's perspective were also puzzled. Black seemed to be sensing something. His face was deep in thought as if he was sensing something. This caused a lot of viewers to quit the live-streaming room. As tool. Qin Lu treated Lin Yuan as a fool. She thought that Lin Yuan didn't understand what to do in this test. Wasting time in front of a fool wouldn't do her any good. In addition, she didn't understand Lin Yuan's strength. Otherwise, Qin Lu would want to ride her 2-headed inferno hound to get rid of Lin Yuan. Qin Lu, who had already run far away, sighed in her heart. After entering the test venue, he foolishly didn't summon his Fae immediately. Such a teammate would only be a hindrance. Qin Lu didn't realize it. However, the audience in the livestream room who was watching Lin Yuan discovered something. An amber button fell from Lin Yuan's wrist to the ground. It turned into a wisp of sand and burrowed into the ground. This made the audience in the livestream room brighten up. They knew that Lin Yuan had used the sand elemental source-type life form. Lin Yuan was also planning to embark on his journey. He was going to find Gao Feng first. Immediately after, everyone was dumbfounded. Thousands of black feathers shot out from the ground. The black feathers were like a storm shrouding Black within. Then 4 pairs of black wings formed behind Black. With a flap of the wings, Black flew into the sky. It was all for the glory of the Radiance 100 sequence. Lin Yuan, who worked hard day and night, could understand this the best. The efforts of these contestants could not be wasted. Previously, when Lin Yuan, Lu Jia, Gu Lang, Zhongzhe, and he and Gao Feng were conversing, Ankh had suggested it before. It was better to let Lin Yuan and Gao Feng take all the powerful contestants. All of them were eliminated first. Only 8 with average strength were left. After that, they would have to face the Freedom Federation's diplomatic mission. This could be done in a different way. This was to preserve the Radiance Federation's top talents to the greatest extent. After Anha put forward his idea, Lin Yuan decisively rejected Anhe's proposal. Firstly, it was in front of everyone from the Radiance Federation and the envoys of the 2 major federations. He single-handedly destroyed the assessment of the 100 sequence. It was equivalent to throwing the Radiance 100's face. At the same time, this Radiance 100 sequence assessment would become meaningless. Even for many years after that, the Radiance 100 sequence's sense of honor. It would all be reduced. Lin Yuan was not qualified to erase the tens of years of hard work of these contestants. He could not damage the Radiance 100 sequence's sense of honor. The Freedom Federation's original Freedom Envoy led the team, but now it was led by His Holiness. Whether it was the Freedom Envoy or His Holiness, they were not fools. If he did that, the Freedom Federation would feel that the Radiance 100 sequence had a conspiracy against the Freedom Federation. The gains would not make up for the losses. This assessment was what Lin Yuan wanted to do. It was to bring Gao Feng as an outsider and survive for 3 days. To become the last 2 survivors out of the last 10 would be enough. After the source sand burrowed into the ground. It burrowed directly into the ground 50 meters below the ground. Then 50 meters below the ground, it kept smashing the rocks and soil to create a large amount of sand. The deeper the ground, the slower the sand creation speed. The more spiritual power it needed, the more it consumed. But Lin Yuan still chose to do so. Part of it was because of the geological exploration. 50 meters underground in the assessment space was already full of rocks. The sand formed by smashing the rocks would be stronger than the sand formed by soil. On the other hand, if it was in a random dimensional rift, there happened to be a Class 2 underground rift. It was a full 50 meters thick support and the ground would not collapse. Now the source sand strength was Diamond X/Fantasy V. The speed of the source sand's sand creation was extremely fast. A wisp of sand shuttled back and forth. In just a few seconds, it could grind the rocks within a 10 square meter range. The yellow sand continued to spread in the direction Lin Yuan flew. Chapter 1648. When they saw Master Duan Li's post. The Star Web users who came to watch the drama all had a preliminary understanding of Black's wings. As long as one's brain was not damaged, they would not question a Class 4 creation master. With the knowledge of a Class 4 creation master, it was impossible to predict a young genius like Black. It was an Emperor-class myth-breed Fae. Even a Class 4 creation master could analyze it. The netizens couldn't help but pay attention to Master Duan Li's account. Master Duan Li seemed to have her eyes on Black recently. She had been investigating Black's information. No matter how shocking Black's performance was, as long as they paid attention to Master Duan Li's post, they would be able to understand Black's Fae immediately. After Lin Yuan met Chen Lu, he took off. During this period, spirit chi professionals would occasionally discover Lin Yuan. They would chase him on their flying phase. However, Lin Yuan's flying speed was extremely fast with the source sand. While Lin Yuan was flying at high speed if he really wanted to investigate, he was even faster than the Platinum Divine Travel Black Swallow. Therefore, even a candidate with a flying Fae could not stop Lin Yuan. Gao Feng had never had a flying Fae. From the moment he was teleported to the test venue, 2 candidates appeared beside Gao Feng. These 2 examinees sent out invitations to Gao Feng. Gao Feng knew that these 2 candidates wanted to have the right to speak. Which side he was biased towards? Which side would have the greater right to speak? Gao Feng and Lin Yuan had no intention of forming a team. What Gao Feng needed to do now was to wait for Lin Yuan to locate him through the ethereal jellyfish's tentacle. Therefore, Gao Feng rejected these 2 candidates' invitation. These 2 candidates did not recognize Gao Feng's identity. The slightly fatter candidate was prepared to go first. However, this skinny, broad-faced examinee had a strange aura. He invited Gao Feng again. He even summoned his other 2 Faes immediately. The 3 wolf species Faes growled at Gao Feng from time to time. This man was indifferent to the reactions of his 3 wolf species Faes. It was obvious that he wanted to use this method to threaten Gao Feng. Gao Feng was not the kind of person who could accept threats. Born in a top faction, Gao Feng, who had been pampered since childhood, had a sense of pride. Gao Feng rejected directly. I have no interest in joining. Gao Feng's actions caused this examinee's mental state to collapse. Every contestant who came to participate in the assessment had their questions reviewed in advance. As a prodigy who stood out from his peers, he did not have a high IQ. But at the very least, no one was stupid. This examinee understood very well that at this stage, how important every minute and every second was. He had wasted so much time on this examinee. However, this examinee didn't want to leave with him, as he did not kill. Otherwise, the violent wind caused by the Diamond X/Fantasy V breeze hibiscus. It was enough to tear the gold-black rock bone-shattering wolf apart. Gao Feng knew that Lin Yuan wanted to find him and sensed the location of the ethereal jellyfish's tentacle. Thus, Gao Feng stood in place and took out the ethereal jellyfish's tentacle. Did not move at all. Gao Feng was sure that within 3 hours, before the dimensional rift of the test space opened, Lin Yuan would definitely be able to find him. Through Lin Yuan's perspective. According to Lin Yuan's flying direction, Cicada Cry knew that Lin Yuan was going to find Gao Feng. Seeing Gao Feng's actions, Cicada Cry nodded. Under the other party's aggressive pressure, Gao Feng still forgave him. It was enough to see Gao Feng's magnanimity. However, such a character did not need to be polished. There was really no way to achieve great things. Along the way, Lin Yuan could be said to have attracted the attention of the majority of the audience. The other candidates were busy forming teams. They were constantly interacting with each other. Even the leaders of the two teams would communicate with each other. They wanted to merge the teams together to face the exotic beast tied together. But what's wrong with Black? Why did a proper test become like a trip? End of this chapter. Chapter 1649. The Radiance 100 sequence had changed from the original private assessment. It had become a live broadcast for the entire population. The actions of every member of the 100 sequence would be exposed to the eyes of the public. There were only tens of thousands of candidates in total. But Hui, Beast Evolution Merchant, Chapter 1649, The Controversy of Black. Please wait a moment. After the content has been updated, please refresh the page to get the latest update. Chapter 1650. The length of these 3 pairs of wings was more than 3 times the original length of Black's wings. As the huge black wings suddenly flapped, Black's speed increased again. Looking at Black disappearing without a trace, Chao Tianlin reached out his hand and touched his big bald head. A little. Beast Evolution Merchant, Chapter 1650. Victory, joy for the world. Defeat, sorrow for the world. Currently typing, please wait for a moment. After the content is updated, please refresh the page to get the latest update. Chapter 1651. As he spoke, Tian Feng played with the 2 pairs of peanuts in his hands. He gently played with them. There seemed to be something terrifying hidden in the 2 pairs of peanuts. Tian Feng's movements caused the space around him to tremble uncontrollably. It was similar to life energy, but it had a different kind of power. Occasionally, it would be released from the shells of the peanuts. Then it would be sucked back by the thing hidden in the peanuts. Tian Feng loved to play with his sacred source life forms. The other highnesses were already used to it. The Moon Empress glanced at Tian Feng and said in a cold voice, "Why don't you contribute your harvest power? Then you'll tell us the formula of the harvest power?" Everyone knew that the Moon Empress valued her privacy. What was her sacred source life form? Up until now, no one seemed to know. From Tian Feng's question, the other highnesses knew that Tian Feng would definitely be rebuked by the Moon Empress. The Bamboo Monarch and Tian Feng had been at loggerheads because of Wang Fuxiang. Could be said that there was a huge grudge between them. No man could tolerate someone trying to kill his wife. Even if that person was acting for the sake of the country. Not even if it was for their own good. The Bamboo Monarch said, "If Tian Feng is willing to contribute all his harvest power and announce the formula, I can take out 1,000 golden thread emperor bamboo leaves." The Bamboo Monarch was sure that Tian Feng would not contribute all his harvest power. The Bamboo Monarch said this to disgust Tian Feng. The Bamboo Monarch's words made a somewhat dull man at the side. His face revealed an expression of interest. The bamboo leaves shed from the golden thread emperor bamboo. It could be said to be the strongest tonic for wood-type phase. It could enhance the bloodline of wood-type phase. It could even allow non-wood-type phase to obtain the wood-type attribute. It was very beneficial for the dull man's own phase. The dull middle-aged man said, "Old Tian, the bamboo monarch has shown his sincerity. Now it's your turn to perform." Tianfeng was dumbfounded. Tianfeng was dumbfounded. Tianfeng thought angrily as he looked at the bamboo monarch in perch. "I don't believe that the two of you don't want to know what this kid's phase are. Why? I asked the question in your hearts. Why are you guys targeting me now? You're bullying an honest man, right? Let me tell you, there are people more honest than me." Tianfeng turned to look at Ji Chongdeng, who was watching the show. "Chongdeng, you should be the most curious about the Fey item of the Moon Empress disciple, right? I heard that the Moon Empress disciple knows your little disciple." Ji Chongdeng had never expected this. Tianfeng suddenly asked about the Moon Empress disciple's situation. He definitely wanted to know. "I want to know everything related to the Moon Empress. But why the fuck did you suddenly QQ me?" At a time like this, Ji Chongdeng knew that whatever he said would be inappropriate. An old bootlicker also needed dignity, especially when his eldest disciple was right beside him. Seeing that Ji Chongdeng did not speak, Tianfeng raised an eyebrow. The topic had been changed. "How simple. You people are still thinking about my harvest power? I've given you the power of harvest. How are they going to stock up on resources in large quantities?" It could be said that other than the chirping of the cicadas, everyone's gaze was locked onto Gao Feng. The gazes of the other 12 His Holiness gathered on Lin Yuan. After all, the others did not have much to look at. As the chief examiner of the entire assessment, Lu Wenqing had a large number of invigilators under him. 2 invigilators were observing a candidate. They recorded all the information of the candidate in detail. These invigilators had the right to write down comments for the candidate. After these comments were done, there would be specialized personnel who would record and verify them. Finally, they would be summarized to Lu Wenqing. Therefore, Lu Wenqing did not need to keep an eye on people during the assessment. Lu Yifan was the 3rd Radiance envoy. He was originally staring at the 1100 sequence members who were teleported to the assessment venue. In the end, he unexpectedly noticed that Black was extraordinary. He also started to stare at Black. Lin Yuan, who was flying in the air, did not know. Unknowingly, he had already attracted the attention of half of the Radiance citizens. However, these attention were obtained. Not all of them were good comments. "June, what's going on with Black? He keeps flying here and there. So many people are cleaning the ground, but I feel that Black does not respect the 100 sequence assessment." Saint Heart White Tiger. "Upstairs, please go take a look at the post. It has been analyzed. Now smart people are rushing to the central area. Rushing to the central area is the most correct choice." "Lai Yu. But didn't they say that the closer to the central area, the gentler the terrain? The direction that Black is flying in is not the central area at all. Instead, it seems to be flying to the edge." "Blind fish. I say, can you guys not be in a hurry to express your opinions? Everything will wait until the dimensional rift opens. I hope that Black can stay away from the crowd. That way, when facing the exotic beast tide, Black can show his true strength." Lin Yuan did not know about the discussions and controversies on Star Web. If Lin Yuan knew about it, Lin Yuan would be very happy. Because whether it was a good discussion or a bad one, popularity was always a good thing for Lin Yuan. It was not because Lin Yuan wanted to be famous. But after Lin Yuan logged out of Star Web, the more popularity there was, the more powerful his power of faith would be. When the Radiance 100 sequence was over, the matter would come to an end. Betraying the oath was tantamount to tarnishing the glory of the candidates in the 100 sequence. How could a person who had forsaken glory be acknowledged? Moreover, Li Nao had already thought of a way out. Do not betray your teammates for 3 days. In other words, after 3 days when the test space shrank, Su Xiaoxia would have to wait. They could attack their companions. At first, no one was willing to accept Li Nao's proposal. Unfortunately, the situation was stronger than them. If they did not lower their heads, they would be eliminated. But then these examinees changed their thoughts. They were the first batch of people to reach the central region. If he followed Li Nao, he would be considered as an elder. In the end, he would definitely be in the core area of the circle. The smart ones were the first to raise their hands and make an oath. The first choice was to listen to him. Li Nao said, In a while, you will be in charge of arranging for the others to build the fortifications. When the first person heard this, a smile immediately appeared on his face. When the others saw that they could obtain such benefits by responding to Li Nao first, they couldn't help but respond one after another. The first group in the core area was now officially established. Looking at those examinees who had already started to build the fortifications, Li Nao's face revealed a trace of a grateful smile. Li Nao felt that he was very lucky to have the opportunity to be the first to reach the central region. It could be said that the 11 examinees who were also in the top 100 sequence like him, whichever examinee arrived first, it was equivalent to obtaining the right time, place and people. Right now there were more than 50 people in his group. Soon more and more people would come to this land and join this group. This was because the number of people in the group was the influence behind Li Nao. This influence would give the new examinees a sense of security and pressure. It would force the examinees to join, even if the other 100 sequence examinees arrived in a while. With the help of so many people, even if they were stronger than him, as long as they didn't want to be eliminated, they could only join. Li Nao felt that as long as the fortifications he built could last for 3 days, he would return to the 100 sequence. Basically, it was already a done deal. There were many posts praising Li Nao on the star web. Li Nao, a member of the 100 sequence who wasn't very famous, was immediately listed. He was at the cusp of the storm. This might be the so-called heroes of the times in the Great Era. One ravine after another was constantly dug out by the phase. The Earth Attribute phase were using their own methods to reinforce the fortifications. Building the fortifications from the inside out was the best choice for positional warfare. With the inside as the core, it would constantly expand to the outside. Chapter 1653. Lu Shuang blinked a few times in the live streaming room. Lu Shuang became famous because of Black. She was the person who paid the most attention to Black during this period. Previously, Lu Shuang did not understand Black. But in order to make better use of Black's popularity, in order to get more traffic for himself, Lu Shuang specially studied Black. Lu Shuang was definitely a top Black studies big shot. While studying Black, Lu Shuang took the opportunity to do some research on Lin Yuan, who had always been compared to Black. After studying, Lu Shuang had a very strange feeling. Black and Lin Yuan appeared out of thin air. After appearing, one became the young hero of Radiance. The other became the top genius of the younger generation. Although the things they did and the phase they used were different, but Black and Lin Yuan's template could be said that they were very similar. Lu Shuang could not help but subconsciously say in the live streaming room. Everyone was puzzled, but they didn't have the time to voice out their doubts. Black and Lin Yuan can't be the same person, right? Lu Shuang subconsciously sighed and started a new rhythm in the live streaming room. In the live streaming room, the neatly organized comments of "Brother Lin" were finally broken. The audience in the live streaming room began to express their views. Unexpected encounter. I think it should be a coincidence. Black's surname is also Lin, or the other contestant called wrongly. Yan Wu, can anyone go and verify if the phase Black and Lin Yuan used are the same? If not, Black and Lin Yuan can't be the same person. One person's fei pool can't have that many. Mo's hang blossoms. It seems that Black flew so far to the dimensional rift that is about to open just to find another contestant. If Black wants to fly back, it will definitely not be enough without 3 hours. Is Little Song finished today? Doesn't Black consider his own situation? What if the dimensional rift suddenly opens? I really don't understand. The bullet screen was full of discussions. As for Lu Shuang, she had already seriously analyzed Black's actions. Black went to find another contestant. It could be said that it spanned half of the assessment venue. At the same time, Black seemed to know where this contestant was. In the process of looking for this contestant, it could be said that Black never took a detour. Of course, all of this was not the main thing that Lu Shuang was currently investigating. Lu Shuang did not believe that Black would participate in the assessment of the 100 sequence. He had no intention of becoming a 100 sequence member. Lu Shuang, who had seen Black's strength, felt that since Black had the confidence to do so, Lu Shuang wouldn't be surprised. They definitely had the ability to protect themselves in the dimensional rift. At this moment, Lu Shuang's mind was still on the word, Brother Lin. Chapter 1654. Right now, if there was only one person who had deleted the comments about Disneyland, then it would be a miracle. It was not enough to attract attention. However, there were simply too many people who deleted it. Such a situation was immediately discovered by someone with an eye. In an instant, the situation became a topic. It was posted in a thread. It caused the heat to keep brewing. More and more people realized that things seemed to be a little off. Lin Yuan, who was standing beside Gao Feng. He did not expect Gao Feng to address him as Brother Lin. Lin Yuan knew that Gao Feng did not mean it. Lin Yuan did not mind it. Just like the silver mask, he had to remove it today. Gao Feng gave Lin Yuan an apologetic look. Gao Feng knew that it was best for him not to say anything at this moment. Otherwise, any response from him would be overly interpreted. Lin Yuan was about to speak. Suddenly, a dimensional rift opened in the sky above Lin Yuan and Gao Feng. The originally clear sky suddenly darkened. The rift was like a black and red scar that constantly twisted and tore in the sky. According to the size of this dimensional rift, Lin Yuan immediately judged that this dimensional rift should be at the pinnacle of Class 1. It opened in the sky and not on the ground. This meant that this dimensional rift could not be an underground dimensional rift. No water flowed out from the dimensional rift. Could not be a water world dimensional rift either. Logically speaking, after a dimensional rift formed, it would brew for a period of time before spitting out an alien beast tide. However, the dimensional rift above Lin Yuan's head did not do so. This dimensional rift was like eating 250 kilograms of croton. It spat out a large number of alien insects with ferocious momentum. It could be said that from the appearance of the dimensional rift to the spitting of the alien beast tide, it happened in the blink of an eye. This did not conform to the pattern of the emergence of the alien beast tide. The Star Web's test venue could be adjusted at will. For example, the dimensional rift that suddenly opened. Without giving people time to prepare, it immediately spat out an alien beast tide. It made these dimensional rifts extremely dangerous. Gao Feng saw the densely packed alien insects. They were pouncing toward him and Lin Yuan. He did not even summon his Fae. He just subconsciously looked at Lin Yuan. Among all of Gao Feng's Faes, it was the only Fae with some combat power. Only the breeze hibiscus. However, the breeze hibiscus was a support Fae. In front of the massive bug tide, it was completely useless. Once the alien insect found its target, it would immediately explode. They would immediately become ferocious and fight to the death with their target. As an alien insect that would treat its companions as food when they were extremely hungry. All living things were food that the alien insects had to eat after discovering them. At that moment, the ground suddenly shook. A quicksand ravine lay in between Black and these alien insects. It drew a clear dividing line on the ground. Those alien insects that leaped up were all knocked back by the splashing gravel in the ravine. The entire land instantly turned into boiling quicksand. A pinnacle Class 1 dimensional rift's insect tide was forcefully stopped just like that. This scene stunned everyone who saw it from Black's perspective. Everyone had always known that Black had a sand elemental life form. However, they did not expect this sand elemental life form. It was actually able to control such a huge amount of yellow sand. Before everyone could exclaim in surprise, they saw the surging yellow sand. Suddenly, a castle was erected. The gravel constantly assembled. It made the shape of the castle become even more exquisite. It was as though there was something inside the castle supporting the structure of the castle. After the appearance of the castle, the boiling yellow sand stopped. Only the sand flow below the castle was still surging violently. It pushed the castle into the sky. Those alien insects wanted to climb up the yellow sand castle. However, they were all slid down by the quicksand on the surface of the castle. The originally boiling yellow sand became compacted. The castle completely isolated the aura of flesh and blood. After a long time, the insect tide that could not climb above the yellow sand castle finally ignored the existence of the castle. They finally ignored the existence of the castle and rushed into the distance. The scene of the yellow sand castle and the insect tide coexisting in the sky. Or rather, it was Lin Yuan's method. The audience instantly lost their ability to think. The number of eyes of Relinquish had already reached 324. If Red Thorn wanted to, it could instantly deplete the eye of Relinquish's energy reserves. The area of the Sea of Flowers expanded to more than 300 square kilometers. Red Thorn had spread out a Sea of Flowers. It could be defined as an AoE skill that combined both attack and control. For a fantasy breed Fae, such an attack range was extremely powerful. Could be said that it was completely out of the ordinary. As of now, Lin Yuan had not heard of any fantasy breed Faes. It could spread its attack range so far. Even those poison-type Faes that were adept at area of effect attacks would not be able to withstand it. Since the poison had drifted so far, it should have dissipated long ago. At the same time, the Star Web's creation masters speculated that Red Thorn was a plant-type source-type life form. What he said before was indeed correct. But saying that now was already wrong. At this moment, Red Thorn had completely become a fairy source-type life form. He was only one step away from achieving the 8 Wings bloodline. Among the known fairy source-type life forms, there was no need to worry. It was enough to be called the peak of the bloodline. After a brief silence, the audience watching this scene. Suddenly, a trace of comprehension appeared in his heart. The name Black itself was like a miracle. Because Black seemed to be able to appear at any time and any place without anyone noticing. To create a miracle. Black awesome. Bullet screens flooded the livestream room. But as they swiped, they discovered something to their surprise. The yellow sand castle had a shielding function. Everyone looked at Black's or Gao Feng's. All they could see was the yellow sand castle itself. He could not see the 2 people inside the castle. Your castle is indeed very good looking and is not inferior to some class 4 spirit craftsmen. But you won't let me see him. What's with only showing me the castle? As long as you stay in the castle, you'll be able to survive until the end of the test. You're not going to make us look at the yellow sand castle for 3 days straight, right? At this time, Lu Shuang and Poison Beauty's livestream gathered the most anti-fans. It immediately blew up. Fuck. What's there to see? I've just had fun for 5 minutes and you're forcing me to enter Sage mode? Interesting soul. Hee, if the 100 sequence tests live broadcast is free, I'll ask for a refund. From now on alone, I'll wait for another half an hour. If it's still like this, I'll look at other perspectives. Black Pill, I suggest you go and look at Li Nao's perspective. The fortifications in the central area have been set up, and the team has expanded to more than 700 people. It's currently the team with the largest number of people, and it's occupying the best position. Don't waste time here. The main purpose of Lu Shuang's livestream was to livestream anti-fans. Chapter 1656. It didn't seem like something a fantasy breed Fae could do. Li Nao didn't care about what the bullet comments were saying and continued speaking. It's still my previous deduction. Black Spirit Chi professional can't reach A rank. This sand-type source-type lifeform's strength is at most Diamond X/Fantasy V. It was a national live broadcast on Star Web. The Radiance Federation's holiness definitely had to consider the contestants' privacy. Therefore they blocked all probing abilities from the audience. To put it bluntly, they could only use their vision to see the scene. They couldn't use their spiritual energy and soul power to observe and perceive like usual. This made even high-class creation masters could only rely on the Fae's ability to analyze the Fae. This was also why the Radiance Federation's holiness would be at ease to give the Freedom Federation and the Azure Federation's envoys. The reason for issuing temporary Star Web cards. The annual Radiance 100 Sequence Assessment. There were a large number of Radiance Federation's prodigies of the right age who participated. These people's information. They couldn't just let the other federations have it. Most people were discussing Li Nao on the Star Web forum. But now, Black's popularity rose again. With the strength of a single person, the topic of discussion was suppressed by a team of more than 700 people. Lu Shuang saw that the audience's interest in the live broadcast room was piqued. She analyzed very seriously. If I'm not wrong, Black dropped the amber button on the ground at the beginning. It's the main body of this sand-type source-type life form. It's able to use such a large-scale ability and affect a large area of the environment. It's because this sand-type source-type life form was constantly producing sand while Black was flying. This is the only possibility that can explain why it's a fantasy breed Fae. It can burst out with the power of a myth breed Fae. There were also some words that were already on the tip of her tongue. Lu Shuang pondered for a moment and chose not to say it. Ever since Lu Shuang lost to Lin Yuan in the battle, she had been very puzzled. His Diamond X/Fantasy V Exquisite Rhinoceros Deer and the 2 Diamond X/Fantasy 4 Walking Witch Snakes had launched an attack. Even a myth breed Fae couldn't ignore it. However, Black's strength was at most a Diamond X/Fantasy V feline Fey. Yet he had blocked everything. He even killed the exquisite rhinoceros deer with a single strike. Even if they were both spiritual type Fays, the exquisite rhinoceros deer still had the help of 2 walking wizard snakes. 3 against 1, there shouldn't be any reason for them to lose. But he had lost completely. He didn't even know how his opponent had defeated him. As the person involved, Lu Shuang couldn't figure it out. After seeing Black's other phase, Lu Shuang suddenly understood. The resources used by Black to nurture a Fey. Chapter 1657. After a day of life and death struggle. For those who enjoyed the educational resources in school, for the highly sought-after geniuses, surviving in the wild was a little too tough. After all, most of the candidates who came to participate in the Radiance 100 sequence test were studying in Spirit Chi vocational colleges. Apart from participating in some social practice classes in school, they would also participate in some summer camps during the holidays and go on adventures. Otherwise, very few people could experience the opportunity to survive in the wild. For the candidates, surviving in the wild was very simple. At the beginning they felt that it was very simple. It was just 3 days and it was fine as long as they could survive. After the items in the Fey storage box were checked, they could be burned into the star web. It could be said that apart from a few extremely idealistic people who didn't eat or drink for 3 days, it wasn't that the candidates couldn't survive. Basically, everyone brought a lot of food. Due to the high difficulty of the test and the need to see a person's quality, the candidates were even allowed to bring a certain amount of first aid items. It eased the pressure of the healing-type Spirit Chi professionals. The candidates thought that it was very simple, but when they faced the beast tide, in just half a day, the mentality of the candidates changed. In the face of a large-scale beast tide, a single person's strength was really too insignificant. Half an hour ago, the candidates saw the former Radiance 100 sequence 97th. He led a team of 200 people and wanted to rush to the central area. However, before they could join the main team and negotiate with Li Nao, a demon tide rushed over from afar. Even under the cover of firepower, this team of over 200 people persisted for nearly 5 minutes. However, they were still torn into pieces by the sudden demon tide. None of the candidates present were naive enough to think that he was stronger than the 97th sequence of the top 100. This matter made those who had just joined the big team led by Li Nao. The candidates who were still unconvinced understood the importance of relying on the group. Li Nao's management ability was extremely strong and fair. It didn't matter who came or whose acquaintance. Li Nao still advocated for the later teams to stick to the outer layer. This made the outer layer teams have to face the greatest pressure at all times. It was also the easiest to have casualties. However, because their own safety was threatened, when the teams at the edge were facing the other teams that were preparing to join the main team, they would sincerely do their best to help. Only when the new teams joined, the members at the outermost layer would. Only then could he reduce the pressure he had to face. In addition, Li Nao's method could also guarantee the benefits of the Spirit Chi professionals that relied on him first. Just as Li Nao was about to give the order to probe the yellow sand castle, a examinee with a broken elbow ran over and said anxiously, "Boss, there are a few Class 4 alien insects in the insect swarm at the outermost west side. A few Class 4 alien insects have mixed into the insect swarm at the outermost west side. The insect swarm in that direction should be a Class 2 insect swarm. We need to send reinforcements in that direction. Otherwise, the number of people over there will be decreasing too quickly." Li Nao lifted his head and took a glance at the yellow sand castle. He made a decision in his heart. In the end, Li Nao decided to send reinforcements to the outermost west side team. Li Nao's character had already been verified when he was selected as a Radiance 100 sequence member. Li Nao was more scheming. But now he was the leader of the team. He had to be responsible for the team first. As for the yellow sand castle, he would wait until something happened. Otherwise, if a direction was exhausted by the exotic beast swarm and couldn't receive reinforcements, the others in this direction would be fearful and lose confidence. It would lower their resistance. There might be over 20,000 members in the team now. However, only 1 day had passed. The next 2 days were the highlight of the event. Li Nao said to the few people beside him, "Go and scout the various directions around the camp and find out the strength of the exotic beast swarm we are facing. Then, according to the actual situation, transfer a portion of the healing-type spirit chi professionals. Bring them to the outermost west side first and treat the injured. Lin Yuan was in the Yellow Sand Castle and looking at the defensive fortifications formed by the examinees in the core region. He was slightly surprised. Then he revealed an expression of approval. Gao Feng took a glance at the core region and said, "The person leading the team is rather capable. The defensive fortifications are stacked in the shape of an astrolabe, and there are people from other regions in the middle. The fortifications are stacked in the shape of an astrolabe. In the middle there are people from other areas and there are straight paths in all directions. We'll be able to provide immediate and effective reinforcements. But from the looks of it, this team's aerial defense is rather weak." Chapter 1658. Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan nodded. One person had the ability to manage a team of 500 people, and the ability to manage a team of 2,000 people. It was a completely different situation. Managing 20,000 people in a short period of time. Making others believe in him. He had to be able to see the big picture. Lin Yuan realized that the High Lords who arranged this 100-sequence test, they were definitely overexerting themselves. Among the 5 major dimensional rifts, there were 2 types of dimensional rifts with the strongest defensive and mobility capabilities. One was the Abyss Dimensional Rift, and the other was the Alien Insect Dimensional Rift. The Demon Tide was individually strong. The Insect Tide was extremely numerous. The Abyss Demons and Alien Insects were extremely adept at running. They were the life forms that hunted for food at all times. They were unlike the swamp life forms, underground life forms, and water world life forms. They were extremely dependent on the environment. Unless they encountered a stimulus, they did not like to expand in a direction that was not suitable for their survival. If the demons and alien insects did not encounter each other, they would also fight. They would constantly whittle down each other's numbers. This test would definitely end in less than 2 days. Just like what Gao Feng said, the pinnacle class 2-dimensional rifts, be it the Abyss Dimensional Rift or the Alien Insect Dimensional Rift, there would be a batch of dimensional life forms with the ability to fly. Among the candidates, there were only a few who had flying phase. They were demons and alien insects on the gold and platinum levels who could fly. The candidates were extremely difficult to deal with. They could only wait for these flying insects and demons to get close. Only then could the phase on the ground attack them. But this kind of attack undoubtedly brought about a lot of losses to the team. Lin Yuan felt that if these candidates wanted to rely on this method to last for 3 days, it should not be possible. At the end of the 2nd day, the strength of the alien beast tide would reach its peak. Lin Yuan was slightly doubtful. This test was indeed a bit too difficult. Why did a test of survival and human nature have to be so difficult? What Lin Yuan did not know was that while he was doubtful, Lu Wenqing, who was standing on the golden stone pillar, was so embarrassed that he wanted to find a place to hide. Ji Chongdeng also shrunk his neck and his expression was not very good. He did not care about Lu Wenqing's stare. Night Leaning Moon could not help but ask Lu Wenqing, "Lu Wenqing, how did you do this test? If I remember correctly, you didn't specify 5-dimensional rifts, but 4 of each. Why have they all become alien insect dimensional rifts and demon dimensional rifts? When you made the suggestion, I already said that the content of the test was a little difficult. Not only did you not change, you even became worse. What do you mean by that?" Lu Wenqing's initial plan was to open 20-dimensional rifts, but it was different. 10 peak level 1 and 10 peak level 2. However, opening 5 at the same time was completely different from opening 2 at the same time. 5 types of dimensional rifts opened at the same time. After the 5 types of exotic beast swarms met each other, they would attack each other spontaneously. As a result, the pressure the examinees faced against the exotic beast horde would be several times less than it was now. But now when the insect swarms met, they would instantly merge. It was the same with the devil tide. Both sides had such a large base. Even if there was a collision, only the alien insects and demons at the outermost layer would be killed. It would not affect the movement of the insect swarm and the devil swarm. This allowed the insect swarm and demon swarm to charge at the examinees who had set up their defenses in the center without slowing down. After hearing Night Leaning Moon's words, Lu Wenqing first apologized. He reflected on himself very seriously. Indeed, the questions I've set this time are a bit difficult. I admit that it was my problem. But changing the 5 types of dimensional rifts into 2 was not my idea. It was Ji Chongding's idea. Lu Wenqing's words caused the other 11 abyssals to look at him. All of their gazes landed on Ji Chongding. When Ji Chongding heard this, he felt extremely wronged. Ji Chongding first looked at the Moon Empress with a fawning look. He then glared at Cicada Cry. Cicada Cry, why is your disciple participating in the Radiance 100 sequence so useless? Didn't you say that he contracted the strongest support type sacred source life form? Cicada Ming was stunned for a moment. He looked at Ji Chongding with a strange gaze. The Moon Empress disciple is also participating in the 100 sequence test. Weren't you praising him quite happily before? Why are you shooting at me now that there's a problem? My disciple is a pure support type. It's not like you don't know. Furthermore, Lu Wenqing's test was originally a little difficult. Now that you've messed with it, looking at the current situation, there might not even be a need for the 3rd day. The test would be over. However, such a test did not have much meaning. The alien beast tide was just an alchemy stone. The real battle for the 100 sequence would be decided. It also had to be the competition between the members. If the 100 sequence test ended hastily, the first reform would also be declared a failure. The Moon Empress seemed to be the one who proposed this change. The Moon Empress looked up at the yellow sand castle in the sky. Her expression did not change at all. After a while, the Moon Empress said in a cold tone, "This test will definitely last for 3 days. This reform will definitely not end in failure." The stronger Lin Yuan's generation was, the more prosperous Hui Yao's legacy would be. Once a federation has a situation where the new and old generations can't take over, it was easy to be targeted. It could be said that Lin Yuan's current actions were extremely powerful. This completely attracted the attention of the Azure Federation and the Freedom Federation's envoys. Although he couldn't see Lin Yuan's Gao Feng, who was inside the yellow sand castle, Gao Feng's face was pale. However, the Freedom Federation's diplomatic mission, which had been plotting against them, decided to take a good look. Black was said to be the top genius of the Radiance Federation's younger generation. What was so special about it? This sudden surge of yellow sand covered a large area. It covered an area of 5,000 square kilometers. Even a myth-breed Fae would not be able to launch such a large-scale attack. But this attack looked too weak. It mainly relied on the sinking ability of the yellow sand. It was like simulating a quicksand vortex in a desert environment. Rank 4 alien insects and demons relied on their physical strength. They could struggle in the quicksand vortex for a long time. Because there was no point to hold on to, they would sink. This level of attack was very easy to be targeted. The Freedom 100 was obviously not enough to deal with such an opponent. However, Hui Yao would not only be facing the Freedom 100. It would be Yan Ling, Kai Hua and Yu Chongjian. These 3 were almost the next Freedom envoys. The Freedom Federation's diplomatic mission had already set the target of the battle as Black. They were going to study Black's situation. On the Azure Federation's side, Yin Lin had already confirmed the specific location of the lion. The person in the yellow sand castle was the lion. Yin Lin's eyes were filled with splendor. At the same time, she was thinking about how to complete the lion's plan. Drag all the people of the Freedom Federation into the water. As a member of the Azure Federation, Yin Lin had been blind before. Her understanding of the world was incomplete. It could be said that her good impression of the Radiance Federation was all from Lin Yuan. Otherwise, Yin Lin would not have any feelings for the Radiance Federation. Lin Yuan was going to take risks for the Radiance Federation and fight against the Freedom Federation's diplomatic mission. To deal with the Freedom Federation's conspiracy, the outcome of this battle would either be Lin Yuan's life or the Freedom Federation's diplomatic mission member's death. Or Lin Yuan's death and the Freedom Federation's diplomatic mission member's life. No matter what happened, the final outcome would definitely be these 2. Yin Lin decided that she might as well go all out. It would also make Lin Yuan's risk even more meaningful. Thinking about this, Yin Lin made a decision in her heart. Lan Sun, who was sitting beside Yin Lin, noticed Yin Lin's abnormal expression. Chapter 1660. In order to eliminate the alien insects, the yellow sand area has been expanded to 5,000 square kilometers. But our ranking venue is only 1 square kilometer. By then, the entire venue will definitely turn into quicksand. The intensity of the quicksand will definitely not be on the same level as it is now. The woman, who had managed to maintain her ranking with great difficulty and was currently ranked 89th in the Radiance 100 sequence, spoke up. You can't look at it like that. Black sand elemental life form also needs time to create sand. As soon as the woman finished her words, Zhou Xian retorted. Previously, when Black was flying, you already saw that Black was using a skill to recover his spiritual power. Anyone who wants to change the venue needs time. We are stepping on the ground. The sand elemental is a variant of the earth elemental and can be directly transformed by the earth elemental. Black is fighting on land with this sand elemental life form, which is no different from me and Long Tao fighting in the sea. Therefore, changing the terrain in the test space will definitely be faster for Black. Besides, this is just one of Black's phase. I agree with Shirsu's point of view. Black can at least be ranked 3rd. Or even higher. But to be honest, Black is growing really fast. I seriously suspect that Black is deliberately preserving his strength before. Black's sand elemental life form is more restrained against Lu Jie's insect swarm. The insect swarm's land combat power, the flesh-mincing blade insects, basically has no room to show off. Listening to the discussions around him, Yi Zichen frowned. Lu Jie was standing on the Radiance 100 sequence's first golden stone pillar. He had the same bright smile on his face as when the insect queen recovered from the near-death state. As Lin Yuan's retainer knight, Lin Yuan was humiliated and Lu Jie was willing to defend with his life. Lin Yuan was praised and Lu Jie felt honored. Others might not know, but Lu Jie knew very well how Lin Yuan had come along the way. It could be said that Lin Yuan had been growing rapidly. At the same time, he had been hiding his strength. Even as Lin Yuan's retainer knight, Lu Jie did not know how strong Lin Yuan was. Until the battle between Lin Yuan and Zhong Zhe at the Nix assembly. Only then did Lu Jie understand Lin Yuan's hidden combat power. It made Jie feel an unprecedented sense of urgency in his heart. It could be said that the other Radiance 100 sequence members were looking up to him. He had been painstakingly following Lin Yuan's footsteps. As for his own growth, be it the source-type life-form cocoon of evolution. Furthermore, the insect queen had mutated under the effects of the Blade Queen Bee's mental toxin. Obtained the ability to control insect-type carcinoma phase. Or the cocoon demon embryos that he had just obtained. His growth could be said to be thanks to Lin Yuan. However, Poison Beauty had something to say. This was because Poison Beauty had once been tightly gripped by Huang Sha's large hand. Then she had sunk into the quicksand. Poison Beauty was most familiar with the suffocating feeling of the quicksand squirming and squeezing. The discussion on Star Web was in full swing, but Lin Yuan realized he couldn't control the current situation by relying on the source sand alone. Even if Gao Feng was constantly restoring his spiritual power. At the same time, he was injecting spiritual power into the source sand. If he wanted to use the source sand to control the 10 Pinnacle Class 1-dimensional rifts and the 10 Pinnacle Class 2-dimensional rifts, it would be too much. It was simply too difficult. The best way was to use Red Thorn. This was because Red Thorn needed an energy supply to grow the Sea of Flowers. It was the alien insect's flesh. The alien insect's flesh was the best source of energy supply for the Sea of Flowers. There was no need for Lin Yuan to provide additional spiritual power. However, the source sand was different. Fortunately, with the yellow sandcastle's cover, the people outside couldn't see the situation inside. Lin Yuan simply waved his hand and summoned Red Thorn. After Lin Yuan summoned Red Thorn, it flew around him twice. Then it forcefully kissed Lin Yuan's face with its bright red lips. It let out a crisp sound. Lin Yuan's loving interaction with the fairy source-type life form. Gao Feng didn't find it strange. The fairy source-type life form's emotions were more abundant than ordinary phase. Gao Feng, who was looking at Red Thorn, asked himself more than once. What did I see? Three pairs of wings. Chapter 1661. The spiritual power in Lin Yuan's body was exhausted. However, the source sand's tumbling did not stop. As the spirit spring lily spat out a stream of spiritual power, it poured into the source sand's body. The source sand that had stopped producing sand made the sea of sand jump. It was not difficult. However, the jumping of the sea of sand was for the abyss demons and alien insects. There was no longer a strong restraining force. Normal and elite demons and alien insects. After walking 100 meters, they would sink into the sea of sand. However, Class 1 alien insects, which were comparable to bronze phase, could effortlessly wade on the sea of sand. However, their speed was extremely slow. In order to resist the sinking of the sand flow, a Class 1 alien insect or demon could only move a few dozen meters per minute. The Level 2 alien insects and demons with silver tier strength were not much faster. The limit of a minute was about 300 meters per minute. It was not as fast as an ordinary person's running limit. However, Class 3 and 4 alien insects and demons could almost ignore the influence of the yellow sand on their bodies. They could move freely in the sea of sand. However, the unforeseen event that had just happened was too shocking. The demons and alien insects at the edge of the quicksand. They saw with their own eyes that their own kind in front of them had fallen into the quicksand vortex. They were ruthlessly devoured by the quicksand vortex. The powerful alien insects and demons could rule the insect tide and demon tide. The Class 4 demons and alien insects with platinum strength already had a certain level of intelligence. These Class 4 demons and alien insects hissed. They hurriedly stopped the team that they could control. However, due to the consecutive opening of the pinnacle Class 2-dimensional rift, there were many Class 4 demons and alien insects that were spewing out. This caused the Class 4 demons and alien insects in front to stop their pace. However, the demons and alien insects at the back did not know and rushed forward. They pushed the demons and alien insects in front of them into the yellow sand. In the yellow sand, the demons and alien insects with the strength of Class 1 and above kept their lives. Those below Class 1 had all become corpses buried in the yellow sand. In the end, the alien beast tide was forcibly stopped. At the same time, the crowded environment caused the alien insects and demons to have a fierce fight. This scene was seen by Lin Yuan. It was also seen by the examinees in the core area who were responsible for scouting the environment. The moment they got the information, the Spirit Chi professionals who were in charge of scouting reported the situation to the Spirit Chi sect. He reported everything to Li Nao. He understood that the exotic beast horde had been forced to stop at the edge of the desert by the quicksand. For the time being, there was no clear action. Not only did Li Nao stand out from the rest, but he also managed to grasp the hearts of the people in just 2 days. Although the newcomers are still not convinced by Li Nao, the veterans who have followed Li Nao for more than a day have almost completely obeyed Li Nao's commands. This should be the charisma of a person. When Dao Sanxing, you guys keep praising Li Nao, but why do I feel that compared to Black, Li Nao is really not good enough? If it wasn't for Black, the team of 20,000 would have been reduced to less than 16,000 by now under the continuous charge of the exotic beast swarm. Playboy Little Radish, I don't know why I want to laugh so much. Li Nao probably didn't know that the yellow sand castle in the sky and the large area of quicksand were caused by Black. He actually asked people to dig the sand. He dug out those alien insects and demons to build the fortifications. No matter how beautiful Li Nao's performance was on Star Web, the most discussed was still Black, who had just created a big scene. Poison Beauty and Lu Shuang no longer spoke. They just kept talking about Black. Black had shown such strength and everyone knew that he was powerful. Then he talked about Black all the time. Could be said that with just this move alone, Black was already famous in the Radiance. Black's circle of attention was mainly focused on his heroic deeds among the group of people who were paying attention to the Star Web duel. But now, after passing this Radiance 100 sequence test, Black broke through the circle. He entered the eyes of almost all the Radiance citizens. He had become a real household star in the Radiance 100 sequence. Fortunately, the yellow sand castle could block Red Thorn. Otherwise, the Freedom Federation's envoy would know that Lin Yuan had a 6-winged demon. To Lin Yuan, the 6-winged demon was nothing. It could be used as a trump card. If there was a 2-winged or 4-winged fairy in the Freedom Federation's diplomatic mission, he didn't even need to summon Red Thorn. He only needed to release Red Thorn's aura. The suppressive power of the bloodline could make a 2-winged Yao or 4-winged Yao lose their ability to fight. Upon hearing Red Thorn's words, Lin Yuan replied seriously. Red Thorn, what we are going to do next is very important. Listen to me, you need to hatch some spore chambers first. I will let the source sand transport these spore chambers to the corresponding positions. Then use the spore chambers to spit out spores and form a few sea of flowers according to the arrangement of the spore chambers. Upon hearing Lin Yuan's instructions, Red Thorn felt that Lin Yuan's task wasn't difficult. It didn't summon the Mouth of Relinquish. The Mouth of Relinquish was Red Thorn's main body. With the Mouth of Relinquish, it could use its abilities through the Mouth of Relinquish. It could guarantee 100% of its power. Now Red Thorn would use its own abilities. It might not be able to match the speed of the Mouth of Relinquish. However, things like spraying spores and hatching spore chambers, Red Thorn could do it easily. Red Thorn's vine-like green hair fluttered without any wind. Among the hair, grayish-green spores that looked like a light mist were scattered. These spores grew rapidly in the yellow sand castle. In a short while, apart from the position left for Lin Yuan and Gao Feng, the other positions were filled with miniature spore chambers that were half the height of a person. After the spore cavity of these child ramets grew out, the spore cavity grew out. The quicksand in the yellow sand castle suddenly became restless. The yellow sand swallowed these spore chambers that had just grown out. Through the constantly jumping sand column below, these spore chambers were all transported from the yellow sand castle to the quicksand. Lin Yuan circulated the spiritual power that he had just recovered. The speed of the source sand surging suddenly increased. The sand flow continuously produced these spore chambers in the yellow sand castle. They were buried everywhere in the sea of sand. Immediately after, Red Thorn commanded the spore chambers that the child ramets had specially formed. According to Lin Yuan's request, it sprayed out the spores, in order to allow the spores to quickly take root in the sea of sand. For this, Red Thorn used 14 eyes of relinquish in a row. The star web viewers suddenly realized that there were rows of dark green plants growing in an extremely regular pattern in the sea of sand. These vine-like plants were very special. They had a certain steel color. At a glance, each vine was very tough. Red Thorn originally wanted to use more eyes of relinquish. However, it was stopped by Lin Yuan. Lin Yuan said to Red Thorn, "Red Thorn, we need to hold on for at least 1.5 days in this sea of flowers. You don't have to use the eyes of relinquish first. There are many corpses of demons and alien insects below the source sand. I'll send the corpses of these demons and insects to your sea of flowers through the source sand. When the nibbling vines pass through, the mouth parts on the tentacles will scrape as much flesh as possible. Then through the flesh of these alien insects and demons, the scale of the sea of flowers will be rapidly developed." Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, Red Thorn hurriedly and obediently commanded the nibbling vines to extend its tentacles into the ground. It found that there were indeed a large number of corpses of demons and alien insects being transported to its feet. Red Thorn itself was a little glutton. Red Thorn naturally would not refuse the food that Lin Yuan had specially delivered to its mouth. Even if Red Thorn was no longer interested in the flesh of dimensional life forms below Class 5. The key was that these things were given to it by Lin Yuan. The nibbling vines first picked the weaker alien insects and demons to eat. With the supply of these alien insects and demon corpses, the area and speed of the sea of flowers rapidly increased. Soon, the sea of flowers formed by the various spore chambers were connected. When the star web netizens saw this scene, they immediately recalled when they first heard about black. That was the content left in their memories. The sea of flowers that instantly spread out could be called black signature. Black source-type life form is really special. Look, the vines of these plants are all reaching into the yellow sand, searching for something. The vines have a lot of sharp teeth. When these vines pull out the yellow sand, they bring along a lot of minced meat. Some of the minced meat was mixed with skeletons and the dark red skin of demons. It's obvious that it has formed an alliance with the source sand. I used the corpses of the evil demons and alien insects buried by the source sand as an energy source. These 8 strips of flowers will act as a buffer. When the exotic beast swarm arrives, they'll be automatically split into 9 parts. The sea of flowers belt can automatically kill off a portion of the beast tide. It's the same as reducing the pressure on the other examinees. In addition, these 9 strips of sea of flowers belt are 1 kilometer away from the core area. After the alien insects and evil demons come out of these 9 areas and converge, there will definitely be another conflict. As long as Black is willing to control it, there won't be any problem for this test to last for more than 3 days. While speaking, Lu Wenqing was glad that there was Black. In his heart he felt that all of this was too ridiculous. This test seemed to be a little too difficult for tens of thousands of examinees. Because of the special characteristics of Black's 2-phase, It was actually solved. It was just that black was placed here alone. Black relied on the sea of flowers to form a defensive fortification. It might be able to last for 3 days. Lu Wenqing had observed the vines that grew out of the sea of flowers. Although he couldn't see the specific grade. However, there was a vine that grew thicker and dragged out a class 4 horned demon from the sea of sand. After entangling the horned demon, apart from its pair of long horns, it wasn't eaten. The flesh and bones of the horned demon were all sucked into the sharp teeth below the vines. A vine could break through the defense of a class 4 horned demon. It had to be at least on the platinum level. Moreover, after this vine devoured the level 4 horned demon, it became even more terrifying. It had become a little thicker. This meant that this plant could not only grow by absorbing energy from flesh and blood. He could also use it to strengthen himself. Lu Wenqing found it hard to imagine what would happen if this source-type life form lost control and was thrown into a dimensional world. As long as he was given enough time, he would not be able to do anything. He didn't want to be discovered by the rulers of the other dimensional worlds. In a situation where they couldn't find the mother plant, the entire dimensional world would be devoured by these vines. Li Su, who was with the Freedom Envoys, said to Yu Changjian, "Long sword, black will be one of your targets this time. Are you prepared?" Yu Changjian was Li Su's caretaker. Therefore, ever since Li Su appeared, Yu Changjian had left his original position. He stood respectfully beside Li Su. Upon hearing Li Su's question, Yu Changjian hurriedly replied, "Don't worry, Your Holiness. Yanling Kaihua and I have a way to deal with the sea of flowers before it takes form." The cooperation of the 3 sacred source life forms has reached the 2nd stage. It's impossible for us to lose. At this point, Yu Changjian glanced at Qianyu. He thought of Qianyu's pressure and demands on him, Yanling and Kaihua. Yu Changjian said to Li Su, "Your Holiness, Lord Qianyu asked us to drag down a few of His Holiness's disciples during the competition. Including Gao Feng, we already have one of His Holiness's disciples. If we drag down too much, the other party will have more than 3 disciples." Before Yu Changjian could finish his sentence, Li Su interrupted him. "Will you feel pressured?" Speaking up to this point, Li Su looked at Qianyu. After pondering for a while, he said, "Qianyu is the Freedom Envoy leading the Freedom Envoys. Everything will still be arranged by Qianyu. But if anything goes wrong, Qianyu, you will have to bear the responsibility. Freedom Envoys might not be as respected as Radiance Envoys or Azure Envoys, but they still represented the younger generation of the Federation. They had to represent the Federation's younger generation. As long as it did not go against their own interests. Li Su did not want to have any conflict of opinion with Qianyu. Therefore, Li Su directly kicked Yu Changjian's opinion back to Qianyu. Instant update of Beast Evolution Quotient. Please bookmark this site so that you can read it online the next time there's an update. Read the first complete version of the mobile version in advance. Chapter 1664. Qianyu heaved a sigh of relief when he heard Li Su's words. Qianyu was afraid that after Li Su came, she would directly take over his authority. If that was the case, he would lose the arrangement for the next competition. If anything went wrong, he, as the envoy leading the team, would be responsible for it. He had to bear the responsibility. Although Li De decided to delegate to himself. But before doing anything, Qianyu felt that it was necessary to greet them. Qianyu asked Li Su softly, "Your Holiness, do you think the Radiance faction has sent the current 3rd-ranked Radiance envoy to preside over the 100 sequence? If I pull down the Radiance emissary who is ranked 3rd in the competition, do you think he will walk down the 7-colored stone pillar? You fought with me?" When Li Su heard this, he looked at Qianyu with a playful gaze. Li Su never expected Qianyu's appetite to be so huge. Too big of an appetite to eat. It could indeed make him stronger. However, it was also possible that their stomachs would burst and even the gods would not be able to save them. Li Hua did not intend to express any opinion and only said one sentence. "I will not participate in anything related to the Radiance 100 sequence. In another day, Goddess Lian will also descend upon the Radiance sect. You're the Goddess of Compassion's caretaker. I hope you won't disappoint her right under her nose." Qianyu, who was originally calm, heard that Her Holiness Goddess Pity was about to ascend to the Radiance sect. He immediately became nervous. Gao Feng looked at the endless sea of flowers outside. Suddenly, a wonderful feeling entered his heart. He told the Spirit Spring Lily to put in more effort and use its skills, Gushing Spring and Spirit Spring activation. At the same time, it would also help Lin Yuan recover the spirit qi that he had consumed. At the same time, he buried a few springs in the source sand that could continuously release spiritual energy. Could be said that what Gao Feng lacked the most was good teammates. To show off his talent. Now it was Gao Feng's first time teaming up with a powerful teammate whose strength matched his. This was the feeling of wholeheartedly supporting his teammates and being carried by them. Gao Feng felt that it was simply too awesome. Lin Yuan continued to issue commands to Red Thorn. Red Thorn, there will be a beast horde in a while. When it passes through the flower belt, you can hunt the alien insects or demons at the edge of the flower belt by yourself. If the Sea of Flowers is attacked, it can be replenished appropriately. But there's no need to expand the Sea of Flowers anymore. At the same time, you don't need to use any other skills. When Red Thorn heard that, it lightly nodded its little head. In Red Thorn's opinion, Lin Yuan had issued an order to it. It was to let him eat to his heart's content for a day. At the center of the examination grounds, the examinees in charge of scouting. Through its fey, it stared at the endless sea of flowers in shock. The examinee in charge of observing finally thought of something. Black was also in the assessment of the 100 sequence. This sea of flowers was the proof of darkness. The sea of flowers stood on the yellow sand. This meant that the quicksand that had just devoured all the dimensional creatures was also Black's doing. If that was the case, was Black not in the yellow sand castle in the sky? Li Nao was leading a group of healing-type spirit qi professionals to treat the injured candidates. At the same time, he observed the situation of the fortifications. Previously, when Li Nao heard the report, he was afraid that the sand would slide down when he dug the sand. The speed of digging the sandpit was very slow. However, he didn't expect that the sand was like it was alive. It took the initiative to reveal a large number of alien insects and demon corpses for him and the others to use. Li Nao decided to go and take a look. At that moment, a few examinees in charge of scouting personally found Li Nao. They explained the situation to Li Nao. When Li Nao heard that, he looked in the direction of the yellow sand castle with a horrified expression. At the same time, his eyes flickered with deep fear. Black's appearance was good news for those who were at the edge of the formation. It was good news for the examinees who had to constantly fight with alien insects and demons. But for Li Nao, who was the actual controller of the core area, it was a huge threat. Li Nao didn't doubt that at this moment, Black walked out of the yellow sand castle and issued a challenge to him. Black had just saved the lives of the Outer Circle members and Black's formidable strength. It could easily seize control of this area. If Li Nao was a smart person, he would definitely choose to block the news immediately. He might even be more ruthless and kill the spirit qi professionals in charge of scouting. In any case, the Sea of Flowers was more than 1,000 meters away from his area. The other examinees couldn't see the Sea of Flowers with their naked eyes. Covering up the news of Black's existence could guarantee Li Nao's authority in the team to the greatest extent. However, Li Nao ultimately didn't choose to do so. Previously, Li Nao didn't have the opportunity to lead a large team. But now he led 20,000 people and survived for 1.5 days. It allowed Li Nao to deeply understand the sense of responsibility as a leader. This sense of responsibility had subconsciously influenced Li Nao to put the interests of the whole as the priority. He was no longer just considering if he could occupy the last 10 spots. He would return to the Radiance 100 sequence and protect the glory of the 100 sequence members. At such a time, everyone was tired. Even if they drank water, ate food and slept, most of the people were terrified by the ferocious beast tide. When Li Nao was patrolling the outer circle previously, he realized that many of the examinees' eyes were very empty. These examinees didn't think that they could pass the test. Therefore, they didn't have such a strong will to survive. At the thought of this, Li Nao called over the 200 team leaders that he had appointed and said, "Spread the news. Spread the news. That quicksand just now is Black. He's helping us resist the beast tide. Outside the quicksand there is a sea of flowers. Let everyone brace up. We will definitely be able to hold on." Li Nao's words instantly made the eyes of these 200 team leaders light up. Their originally depressed and nervous hearts suddenly gave birth to a surge of courage. They looked at the yellow sand castle in the distant horizon. The 200 team leaders were like arrows that had left the bow. They spread the news to the ears of every examinee. Then cheers sounded from the camp one after another. Slowly they gathered into a long river of cheers. If not for the fact that all the spectators knew that this was a harsh test, they would have probably heard the cheers from the bottom of the examinees' hearts. They would have thought that they were holding some kind of celebration. The continuous cheers faintly spread to the yellow sand castle. Lin Yuan and Gao Feng heard it. At this moment, it was unknown who shouted, "Black bull coins." Then the sound of the black bull coins shook the sand on the ground. When Gao Feng heard the cheers of these examinees, he revealed a smile. However, Lin Yuan didn't smile. Instead, his brows were tightly knitted together. This was because Lin Yuan realized that the beast tide that had stopped at the edge of the sea of sand had moved. Instant Beast Evolution Quotient. Please bookmark this site so that you can read it online the next time there is an update. Read the first complete book in advance. The mobile version is the fastest. Chapter 1665. And after a few hours of preparation, through Morbius True Data, Lin Yuan could clearly see the Class 4 demons and alien insects that managed the entire beast tide were constantly examining the Sea of Sand and the Sea of Flowers. Although the alien insects and demons did not gather together, the two sides were still constantly fighting. Every minute and every second, there were a large number of alien insects and demons fighting with each other, leaving the ground full of broken limbs. But these Class 4 alien insects and demons all gathered together. At the edge of the beast tide, they formed a small square formation. These Class 4 demons and alien insects formed a small square formation and were mobilizing the insect tide and demon tide. They attacked the central area from all directions. They were ready to explore the strength of the Sea of Flowers that had just appeared. Lin Yuan let the source sand surge freely. Under the surging of the beast tide, Lin Yuan discovered the normal and elite demons and alien insects could not go far at all. They would sink into the sea of sand. It could be said that the source sand surged freely and sifted out a large number of low-grade alien insects and demons. But soon Lin Yuan discovered that something was wrong. If it was like this, then the alien insects and demons that could rush to the central area were at least bronze. The stronger ones could reach gold or even platinum, even if Red Thorn was constantly feeding on it. But in the end, when the examinees rushed to the central area, they had to face the beast tide. Their overall strength would be enhanced. This method went against Lin Yuan's original intention. The beast tide formed by Class 1 demons and alien insects as the basic combat units. It was far more terrifying than the original beast tide made of normal and elite demons and alien insects. Therefore, Lin Yuan immediately stopped the spontaneously surging source sand. He no longer let the source sand devour those normal and elite insects and demons. At the same time, when Red Thorn was feeding, it would specifically choose those high-level demons and alien insects according to its instincts and taste. Only then could it be considered to have a true adjustment function. The audience in the livestream room watched as the source sand under the beast tide stopped surging. A large number of beasts seemed to have gone crazy. They crazily rushed toward the central area. Facing the beast tide, the power of the Sea of Flowers was officially revealed. These feeding vines that Red Thorn had spawned until now. Beneath the yellow sand, there was still a large number of dimensional creatures that hadn't been eaten clean. Having enough energy supply, basically every carnivorous vine's level. All of them had reached the silver rank. There were even many vines that had been strengthened by eating a large amount of food. His strength could even reach the gold rank. They had extremely high resistance to the acid in the alien insects' bodies and the demons' flames that could wither plant phase. But even so, the insect fangs gnawing and bone armor slashing, it still reduced the number of carnivorous vines in the periphery. Time was in a stalemate for a few minutes. In the face of the endless alien beast tide, the god view could be seen with the naked eye. The area of the Sea of Flowers was constantly shrinking. And it was during these few minutes that Lin Yuan was surprised to find out. Those small objects produced by Red Thorn's pink spores. In the blink of an eye, they grew to over 2 meters tall. They formed a strange thorny sphere. No matter how he looked at it, this strange sphere looked like a simplified version of the mouth of Relinquish without the eye of Relinquish. However, this thing was not like the mouth of Relinquish that could be eaten. After these objects grew to 2 meters tall, they still did not stop growing. In the end, they grew to a height of nearly 4 meters. The entire sphere also expanded into a translucent state. On the sphere it was like blood vessels. There were a lot of pipes bulging out. These pipes quickly spread on the sphere. Finally, it grew out of the sphere. It was connected to every nearby carnivorous vine. The liquid inside the sphere was naturally injected into the carnivorous vine through the pipes. The carnivorous vine suddenly became full of energy. Originally, it would take about 10 seconds to digest a normal and elite exotic beast. But now the time was added up. It would definitely not take more than 3 seconds. It meant that the efficiency of the Sea of Flowers eating had increased by nearly 3 times. The Sea of Flowers was originally forced into a sorry state by the alien beast tide. With the help of these pink spores, they developed into spheres. They quickly recovered the lost land. Chapter 1666. It had completely stabilized the 8 long belts of the Sea of Flowers in the beast tide. In the process of the battle between the Sea of Flowers and the beast tide, the central area had already been fortified. As for the battle between the Sea of Flowers and the beast tide, these members were in the same team as them. The examinees who were studying the battle had no way to discover it. However, the audience on Star Web had a bird's eye view. They were truly facing the battle between the Sea of Flowers and the beast tide. For ordinary people, this battle was like an epic movie. It made those who originally did not believe that the Sea of Flowers could stop the beast tide. He deeply understood why Black had been able to use this plant Fae back then. Under the insect tide, it had defended Millstone Town. It had even refreshed many Spirit Chi professionals' definition of Faes. It turned out that a Fae or Source-type life form had been nurtured. It could be nurtured to such an extent. Poison Beauty had now become a complete Black bragging. Since the yellow sand castle rose into the sky, she had been bragging about Black non-stop. After Lu Shuang realized that Black's identity must be extraordinary, when bragging about Black she had to be more cautious than before. He no longer put Black and himself in the same category. Previously Lu Shuang had lost to Black. Lu Shuang had never understood how she had lost. Many bullet comments asked if Lu Shuang was convinced. Lu Shuang had never publicly expressed that she was convinced of Black's strength. Lu Shuang believed that Black mainly won in the mystery of the Fae. As a B-rank Spirit Chi professional, Black did not have a myth breed Fae. Lu Shuang's and Black's Faes were Diamond X/Fantasy V. If she could know what Black's cat species Fae's abilities and exclusive skills were, she could avoid that cat species Fae's specialty. It might not necessarily not have the strength to fight with Black. But now Lu Shuang had seen Black. Apart from that 8-tailed spirit cat, the other 2 Faes. Lu Shuang didn't know if Black had displayed all of its strength for these 2 Faes. But even if it was displayed now, no matter which one it was, Lu Shuang knew that she was not a match. Lu Shuang could not help but sigh in the live streaming room. I am completely convinced by Black. I feel that with Black's strength he should not lose to those Majesty's disciples. Lu Shuang was a very careful person in the live streaming room. He never spoke carelessly. Yet he said something like that. It was because that was what Lu Shuang really thought. Her Majesty's disciple had always been the same as Her Majesty. It was a legendary existence. There were always a few anonymous names on the Sanctuary Division rankings. The Stairway winning streak leaderboard was the same. Most of these anonymous people were the young geniuses of the top forces. Or perhaps the legendary disciple of His Holiness. Lin Yuan's performance in the Radiance 100 sequence test was quite impressive. Lu Shuang said this from the bottom of her heart. Upon hearing Lu Shuang's words, the live stream instantly boiled over. Qing, Shuangzi finally has someone he respects. Black is indeed powerful. Just based on the 2 Faes that he displayed, I can't think of any weaknesses that he has. However, it shouldn't be appropriate to compare Black with His Holiness disciple, right? Magic Jiezai. I don't think it's inappropriate. We can't see the strength of Black's 2 Faes through the star web, but look at those posts. They all say that Black's sand elemental life form is Diamond X/Fantasy V. Even the top geniuses are only at this level. Could His Holiness disciple be able to break through to A-rank Spirit Chi professional at the same age as Black and have a myth breed Fae? Inexhaustible loneliness. No matter what, Black is my fan for life. Unless those His Holiness disciple come out and fight with Black. Otherwise, in my place, Black is the strongest. Lemon Chuxia. Do you still remember the bet between His Holiness and the Freedom Federation a month ago? I have a feeling that Black might become the next Radiance Envoys. There is a referendum in the Radiance Envoys voting. Although the referendum only accounts for 10% of the total points, I must vote for Black. Maple Dance, hey. You can't not want to see Black's blue bird, 8-tailed spirit cat, bee and healing type fae just because he used this sand elemental life form and that plant source type life form. The star web was full of posts discussing the Sea of Sand and the Sea of Flowers. Black's official fan group was led by the group owner, Lu Lang. They entered the carnival in advance. Lin Yuan and Gao Feng didn't know any of this. Gao Feng looked at the 8 long ribbons of the Sea of Flowers standing proudly in the alien beast tide with a face of shock. The ferocity of the Sea of Flowers even made the alien beast tide. They even faintly felt fear. Gao Feng found that the dimensional life forms in the alien beast tide were crazily squeezing into the area between the 2 long ribbons of the Sea of Flowers. I didn't want to be picked by the vines in the Sea of Flowers and become fertilizer. Lin Yuan had used his own strength. He had faced all the Radiance 100 sequence candidates and the assessment content. For a moment, Gao Feng was so shocked that he couldn't even speak. As a member of the younger generation of a top faction, Gao Feng was used to big storms and waves. But everyone present, if it wasn't for Lin Yuan, if it was anyone else, even if it was Zhong Zhe, Gulang and He, no one could do what Lin Yuan did in front of him. But when he thought that the one who created the Sea of Flowers was a 6-winged fairy that broke the common sense of fairy source-type life forms, Gao Feng felt relieved. On Lin Yuan's side, he was curiously communicating with Red Thorn.